Hey there, how's everybody doing tonight? Thank you for joining me. Um, Tonight is week 3 of our Fit, Free, and Fabulous Fitness Storm, and I have greatly enjoyed getting the opportunity to chat with everybody and hear what everyone's up to. We've had a lot of wins, I've noticed. Hey, Chris, happy birthday! And Kayla, how are you? So I was just talking about the fact that I've noticed we've had quite a few wins lately of people doing different things, looking at things differently, trying things differently. And some of them show up in our private Facebook group. If you aren't in there yet, the link is right here on the page. Some of them show up in my message, and I just have to share them incognito. But yeah, lots of good stuff going on. I know that a couple of people have, well, one of our people has been working to sleep. That's one of her goals, is to get more sleep, and she's figuring it out. And hey, it is good to see you, Kayla, too. And I know some of our other goals are to get out there and actually start doing some long runs, participating in some of the big running groups. And what else? Some people are saying that what they're doing is just trying to reach for a consistent 5 to 6 days a week of exercise. And I talked about it really briefly, super briefly, in the Facebook group, I think this morning, is how important it is to be consistent with the exercise and how important it is to make sure that you get rest in there too. Because it's just definitely with cardio, absolutely when you're lifting weights. I mean, rest is what builds your muscles. And with cardio, rest is what allows you to rejuvenate. So, getting rest in there for sure. For those of you who catch this after we start, hey, Joan, thanks for joining me. I think I was just talking about you. Good things only. For those of you who catch this after we go live, I'm Kelly Howard, if we haven't met yet, and this is week 3 of the Fit, Free, and Fabulous Fitness Storm. Just so you guys know, you're the first to know. Hey, Steve, how are you? Oh, Steve, you're going to be so jealous when you hear what I'm getting ready to say. It looks like next week I'm going to have to put off our final week. Actually, I'm going to stretch the week. I think we're going to do a couple more weeks, but I'm going to have to miss next week. I will try and do a pre-recorded video and post it in the group, but I'm going to take off for a few days. I'm going to go do some kayaking and some camping, and where I go, there isn't cell coverage. So I don't think I'm going to be able to get in the group next week, but I will definitely let y'all know for sure before I head out. And if I do get to go, but yep, it's time to get, when the temperature says it feels like 120 in Houston, it's time to get out. So today I'm chatting here. Today, what I wanted to talk about real quick are habits, like just habits. And habits are basically everything. And you can see my left arm doing the wig thing here. I have a cat, and her habit is, as soon as I get on the computer and start talking, she comes and lays on top of all my notes, everything that I've laid out, so that she can, she can get in the middle of it. So we all have our habits. Yeah, Steve, guess where I might be? I'm going to go to my favorite place on earth, where you guys just were, so can't talk too much. But yeah, so habits. Pretty much everything we do in life is a habit. Like, our reactions are habits, our actions are habits, the things that we do without thinking are habits, the things that we do, we think about them, and then hopefully we do them. They're habits too. Hey, Karen, thanks for joining in. So when you want to do something different, or when you want to achieve something different, then you have to have different actions. And since so much of what we do already is kind of like autopilot, we have to learn how to get past that to change the habits. So let's use an example of, I can give you an example. So I don't know if anyone heard the podcast today, but in the podcast, I was talking about how I had slipped back into using sugar in my coffee in the morning, which is like a 50-year habit. It's tragic. You would think that I was like, in my mom's womb at that time, but it's actually a 50-year habit. So after doing that podcast, and I had said that I wasn't ready to stop again, I thought, why? Like, it's not doing me any good. So I tend to take my habits in two doses. One of them is that I will just change a habit. Like, this needs to be changed. Or the other one is I'll do something different for a while and then decide after a certain period of time what I want to do next. So sugar in the coffee, this is a habit that I decided not to do for the next 3 weeks. It's just cold turkey on that one. So when I do something like that, what I like to do first is I like to just ask myself, what do you get from this habit? Whatever habit it is, right? Like, it can be a good habit or a bad habit, but if it's a habit we want to change, then it's typically one that we don't like. So what is it that you're getting from the habit that that benefits you, right? So for me, like having sugar in my coffee in the morning, I like the flavor. And it's just, I like the way it tastes. I put stevia in there, it tastes different. So, that's one example. Another habit that we could change, let's say that, okay, here's one, that let's say you're going to ride your bike 3 times a week. You're going to get up early and ride your bike 3 times a week. So if that's not your habit, what you're getting from not having that habit right now, right, is the ability to sleep in. You don't have to go out and get sweaty in Houston, Texas, if that's where you live. Those are the benefits of not having the habit. And so then you have to ask yourself, what are the benefits of changing, right? Like, what's this new habit going to give me? So for me, not having sugar in my coffee in the morning, one thing is it just doesn't turn on your whole digestive process if you're not drinking sugar in your coffee in the morning. So you have a longer time before your digestive process kicks in. Another thing is that sugar isn't the greatest thing for you, and I don't really have it very often, but why should I start my day with it? So what do you get out of the habit, and what's it going to fix to change that habit? Okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing is that any habit that you have, my suggestion is if you want to change something, start small. Like, just start small. A lot of times, New Year's resolutions are great. Hey, Hannah, are a great example, because a lot of times at New Year's, people will be like, okay, I'm going to start exercising, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to eat clean, and I'm going to quit eating sugar, whatever it is. That's too many things. Like, habits are they're so deeply ingrained in our reptilian brain that you can't just throw all those things at it. You need to start small. You need to start with one thing. So let's just say you start with one thing, and I'm going to, if we're just talking about New Year's resolutions and that whole cascading effect of I need to do all these things, my favorite place is always start is movement, because the reason you start with movement is one of those things that kind of breeds all the other good habits that you could have that follow along. So hey, Michelle, so if you get in and your new habit is going to be, I'm going to start exercising, or I'm going to start exercising a specific way. Let's say for me, I had been pretty slacky up until the beginning of the year, and so one of my big pieces this year was to get back to the gym consistently. So when you get into the consistent habit of movement, or a habit that you perpetrate and go on and on and on, what happens is that one good habit leads to the next good habit. Conversely, one bad habit leads to the next bad habit. I mean, a perfect example of that is, let's say you go out and you have too much to drink one evening. You're out with your friends, you have too much to drink, you go home, you don't sleep well. So now you've had one bad habit, then you don't sleep well, which is another one. So then what happens is the next day, because when you don't sleep well, your defenses are down, then you're going to eat bad. So it's a cascading effect of bad. Yeah, right? So it's a cascading effect going down. So what you want to do is you want to just like build those habits up one thing at a time. And, you know, the strongest one that you can first. Small steps. Hang on, let me just check and see if anyone has any questions. Hey, Julie. We have a full house for me tonight. Good to see y'all. So what we're talking about is just habits. Like, you know, and I guess I should have prefaced this whole thing with a habit. You're either creating a habit, you're adding a habit, or you're removing a habit, right? So creating a habit might be going to the gym every 3 times a week. That might be a new habit. Removing a habit might be, like I was talking about, not having sugar in my coffee. So habits really in my world come in 2 forms. You're either adding or subtracting. And both of them, you know, have their pluses and minuses. So, you know, pick the one that works for you and then just start small. The next piece to that is, after you've asked yourself, what do you get from this habit? And because, you know, there's a reason that you did it. So, you know, what's this habit that you want to change and what do you get from it? What are you going to get from not doing it? Then what are the smallest steps that you can break down to actually, you know, make that habit work? Going back to the idea of having no sugar in the morning in my coffee. So I wake up this morning, I go in, I get a cup of coffee, not really thinking, go ahead and reach into the cabinet. I'm going to get the sugar out. And I'm like, no, wait, I forgot. No sugar. So then I turn around and I'd forgotten to put the stevia out. So then I had to go dig around and look for the stevia because I want some sweetener, and it's a leaf, like this sweet leaf that doesn't have sugar in it. So I should have had that out right away where I could see it. So it's just like building up little steps to get to that habit. The next thing is that when you're changing habits, sometimes you have a fall. Sometimes you have a trip. Let's say your habit is you're going to go to the gym 3 days this week, and something happens and you make it 1 day a week. We tend to do something that doesn't really work for us. It's kind of like the all or nothing. Oh my gosh, I didn't do what I said I was going to do. I'm a bad person, so I'm just not going to be able to do this habit, so I'm just not going to go to the gym anymore. I mean, it's a very all or nothing. Happens a lot with dieting. Like, that's where it happens most, is that you're going to change your diet, and then you're doing really well until, 5 days in, and then you decide that, you're going to splurge, and the weekend takes over and you eat a bunch of junk on the weekends, and then Monday it's like, why try? It's obviously I'm not going to be good at this. And the truth is that people trip, people make mistakes. And all you have to do is start over. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, there is no failure. There are just stories that we make about failure. So if you don't do what you say you're going to do, and then you have a hiccup, then just start over. It's not a big deal. I mean, that is the bottom line. Like, nobody's perfect, and nobody's perfect out the gate. Like, the people who are perfect out the gate, don't trust them. No, just kidding. But like, no one's perfect out the gate at everything. So that's one part of the trip. The other part of the trip is the negotiation. When you haven't set your world up so that it makes the habit easy, that's when the negotiation comes. A good example for that is, let's say you're going to go, well, like right now, I can give you a good example in my world. I'm riding early in the morning. I have a bike ride early in the morning. To eliminate the 5 o'clock, oh, do I really want to do this negotiation? I'll put out all my riding clothes. I'll fill up my water bottles. I'll have everything out the night before. So it just makes it that much easier. It's like setting yourself up to win, skipping the negotiations, because we get them. We always get them. Like, when we're changing habits or trying something new or doing something new, listen to yourself. You'll do that negotiation thing. It comes up. So then another one is that, well, actually, the biggest one is that the easiest way to change a habit is to change who you are and what you think about yourself with that habit. And this is one of those slightly esoteric but absolutely true things that is a little hard to explain. So I made a couple of notes. Let me just look at them because I've been thinking about this all day. It's kind of how you see yourself in your head. If you see yourself in your mind as someone who eats well, then it's so much easier to eat well. Like if you're changing the way you eat and you see yourself as that kind of person, then it's just a lot easier to be that kind of person. So a lot of it, I mean, so much of what we do is a mind game, really. Like it's all about our mindset. So ask yourself, like, if you're not sure, I mean, to me, the eating thing is easy. I pretty much, I mean, Phil calls me no fun food Kelly. I mean, occasionally I stuff, like, I don't know, I don't turn down Tex-Mex for sure, but I'm pretty good with my diet. And that's because I think of myself as someone who's pretty good with their diet. Like, except I was drinking that sugar in the coffee, right? But you have to kind of see yourself as who you want to be. Sometimes it's easy to use someone else as an example. And I'm struggling here. Trust me, guys. I thought about this a lot today. So it's becoming, right? It's becoming who that person is. So an example for me would be, let's just see. I'm trying to think of a habit that I want to change. Well, I mean, coffee, sugar in your coffee is not really a big deal. I mean, you do it and then you either keep doing it or you don't. So that's not a great habit. Let's make one up. Let's just go with the food thing. Okay, so let's say that in general, your diet isn't the greatest, but you want to change it. So you'd start thinking about food and your diet the way someone who has a good diet would think, right? So let's pick somebody, someone give me an example. Who's somebody out there that writes books, that does a lot of health food? I mean, the only one I can think of right now is Chris Carr. So you guys just gonna have to go with Chris Carr. So, and Chris is someone who does a lot of raw food. She does a lot of smoothies and green drinks. She does cookbooks around them. So just have to work with me on this one. If what you want to do is become someone who eats like that, then one of the things you would do is you'd be like, okay, what's the identity, or what are the actions, or what are the ways of thinking that someone who eats in this clean manner I'd like to eat would be? And so you could use Chris as an example. You'd think, well, okay, well, Chris would never eat a cheeseburger. She'd eat, green smoothies for breakfast or whatever it is, right? So you're kind of emulating people or actions, not just people, but actions that are the right ones for you. It's that old almost fake it until you make it. Does that make sense? Anyone have any questions about that? Because that might be, oh, hang on. I missed a whole lot of questions. Hang on. Let me just see what Kayla says. Yeah, I like that. Kayla says, I try to ask myself, does this help me with my goal? And yeah, you're right. Kayla said there's a podcast quote, which was, what kind of person does this? Yeah, I mean, and it's what kind of person does the thing that you want or not the thing that you don't want. I mean, it works both ways. And Michelle, what do you mean about this is your struggle with social eating? Because like Social eating, I can just, if you guys don't mind, I'm just going to use Michelle as an example for a second, because she had posted something in the private group where she was talking about how basically the food that she eats in social situations is boring. And I can tell you about a friend of mine who was a salesperson, and a very successful salesperson, who was also an extremely buff, sexy, good-looking person. Like, she was genuinely hot. She also worked out, right? Like, she was at the gym. And so one day I asked her, I was like, so how do you travel all the time, being, in sales? How do you travel and stay in shape like this? Because obviously you can't, it's not all workout. It's got to be food too. Like, how do you do that? And she said, well, when I'm out at dinner, I eat chicken breasts and, steamed vegetables, and I drink water. I'm like, so is that weird? Because, everyone else is yucking it up and that's what you're having. And she's like, no, it's not weird for me because it's who I am. And I'm completely happy with that. So yes, I mean, I can see how that could be boring in social situations, but at the same time, it was who she was so much that it's exactly how she ate and what she did. Like, it was ingrained in her. So I don't know if that helps, but it's a good example of the idea of, like, who you think you are, like who you really think you are at a cellular level, then that person is who can change that habit or do something different. And this can go both ways. Like, if you think at a cellular level you're not a good eater, or you eat poorly, then you have to change that mindset, because until you change the thought process, you're just fighting. Like, it's a fight. If anyone heard the podcast today, I was talking about the difference between 100% committed and 99% committed. And it's kind of like that, because when you're 100% committed, or you're 100%, you know what you want and what you're going to do, it's super easy. When you're 99% committed, it's really hard, because there's always that little niggling doubt that can hold it back. So does that make sense, ladies and gentlemen? I don't want to keep you guys too late tonight, but I did want to kind of really think about this idea of habits, and the fact that we are basically we're just habits. Like, almost everything you do in life, you slip into autopilot if you're not consistently paying attention and thinking about, what your next step is and who you want to be, what you want to do differently. Hang on, let me just see this. Now I become backtrack special order refined binge chocolate eater. Michelle says she doesn't want eating out to be the center of her social life, but that's the invitation she gets. That's how people see her. I mean, it's really, like, if you think about it, it's what we do, right? In general, our social life is eating out, going for drinks, maybe movies. That's a typical social outing, unless you come up with something different. I think that's where Bayou City Outdoors I found to be so amazingly helpful and so successful, because we would find an event to go to, and then that became the social outing. And maybe usually there was food around it, but at the same time, picking something that you want to do, that works too. Like, even like if it's, well, I know Steve's on the call tonight. Steve and Donna and Phil and I went out to music one night. So it was a different kind of social outing. A lot of us have done things together, and it's different kinds of social outings. So sometimes you have to pick the social outing, and not everyone is not everyone's like us. Like, not everyone is going to go for a hike or a run or a paddle or a ride or a music or whatever it is. But it never hurts to suggest it. So let me just wrap up tonight. I want to just go over real quick what we talked about, because habits are a huge piece, and we're trying to drill it down into 25 minutes or less. So in 25 minutes or less, one, you want to know what you're getting from the habit that you have, or that you're changing, or starting. Like, what's the benefit? So start with that. Then two, what are the smallest steps and the easiest things that you can do to make it simple to change right away? Three, when you start negotiating with yourself, cut it off. When you have a relapse, when you have a trip, forgive and forget. Like, just forgive and forget. And then number four, you want to be the person that is the kind of person who would have that habit that you want to create or want to get rid of. So any other questions? Because I truly don't want to keep you guys all night. But yeah, yay, BCO, you're right. And I will, on Wednesday night, we're going to be doing a Q&A, and it will be, I think it'll be live here, and then we will share it over on the private Facebook group. If you're not a part of the private Facebook group, click in the link and we'll let you in. Most of the conversation happens over there. And then next week, I will do my best to pre-record a video for Monday night, and then we'll catch back up and start back up on the 22nd of July. And I will post photos of where I am, so that everybody who's in the South and hot will be so grateful that I'm somewhere beautiful and cool. I love you guys. Thank you so much for dropping in tonight. And I will see you on the Q&A on Wednesday evening. And let me know what's going on, and I will talk to you soon. See you. Bye-bye now.